Hey everyone, welcome back. Actually been away from this for a couple of days. I had to go fix a problem on my mum's car. It was making a horrible screeching noise. Turned out the bearings in the alternator had gone bad. Also spent some time cleaning up the parts you saw me remove off the main timing belt end of the engine in the last video. I did manage to get the timing sprocket separated from the harmonic balancer without too much trouble. I had to use a puller in order to pull the inner sprocket off of the harmonic balancer. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the balancer which is threaded, so I don't see any way you can actually pull the balancer off of the sprocket with them both still attached to the engine. You have to do it from the other side, so if someone knows different, I'd appreciate the tip. So what we're going to be doing now is putting this end back together and installing the main timing belt. So let's get to work. Okay, first we're going to refit the rear lower timing belt cover. There's 4 bolts. 3 are the same size. The larger one goes in here, and the small 3 go inside of there. It's important to use thread lock on these. I wasn't able to come across a torque value. I believe probably about 10 for the thinner bolts and 20 for the larger bolt, but I'm not sure on the exact specification, but that's what I'm going to go with. The smaller bolts are 10mm socket. I think it's going to be a 13 for the larger one. Okay, that's that reinstalled. Just from reassessing that, I don't think it would be strictly necessary to actually remove that part of the cover. You can actually gain access to the water pump and to the crank seal if necessary. But you know, I was quite happy to have taken it off because it was very dirty anyway and needed a good clean up. Next step, we're going to put the water pump in place. Okay, we should get in the kit, you of course get the pump, the O-ring and the 3 bolts. It's important to put some grease on the O-ring, and it must be rubber compatible. Sort of general purpose greases will actually damage the gasket and cause it to leak. So I'm going to be using silicone grease on this. I believe if there's damage to the mating face on the block, then I think what people tend to do is use some form of RTV silicone, high temperature silicone to get it to seal up, but really not strictly recommended. And if the mating surface is good, then grease should be sufficient. If you look around the water pump, there's actually little sort of protrusions near where the seal goes, which should help it to hold in place. Famous last words as it pops out again. It sort of actually gives you the impression there that it's a little bit too big, but it does fit. So putting a bit extra on there and also trying to spread it just a little bit onto the flat metal surfaces there, which will mate up to the engine. Okay, as I think I mentioned earlier, two of the water pump bolts also help to secure the rear upper timing cover. So at this point I only need to put one bolt in place and just for the moment sit it dry. The old bolts were actually thread locked. Since it's the original pump, I can only assume that's the way it was done from the factory. I found it hard to track down a torque value for these, but I'm going to go with 20. See how that goes. The bolts are actually unevenly spaced around the pump, so yeah, it will only fit to the block one way. Okay, from the looks of it, goes that way into the car, with the two that are closest together facing the front. For the moment, it's only that bolt you should be able to get in. They are 13mm. Okay, for the moment, you just put that in finger tight, just simply to hold it in place. Get it aligned a little bit better in a few minutes. Okay, next is going to be the rear upper timing case. Okay, here it is. There's two bolts that specifically belong to this. 13mm one goes on that side, and the little 10mm one goes on that side. Those two there are also for the water pump. I'm going to try these other two water pump bolts in place just to make sure I've got the cover aligned properly. Yep, all seems well. Okay. Next I'm going to put the timing sprocket back in place for the belt. As you can see in there, it is keyed, so it will only fit on the crankshaft one way. Okay. Next I'm going to put the tensioner in place for the main belt. Okay, got a new bolt and a type of sort of not quite a spring washer, but it's clearly distorted in a way. It's effectively similar to a spring washer to help it stay in place. I took a good look at the old one. It wasn't thread locked, so this is going in dry. Okay, I'll just show you the tension here. That hook there fits over a peg on the lower rear timing case. There is the fixed pointer, and that is the pointer that moves when you twist the bolt there to apply tension. The correct setting for a new belt is to have that pointer past this mark with a gap in between of 2 millimeters. Now that is only for a brand new belt, not if you're doing an adjustment of the old one.